And everybody's here. Facebook is starting. Good morning, friends. Oh, friends. Good morning. It is always exciting. So Mark was unable to hear us for a while, but we could hear him. So you're just going to go ahead and do the music. But as you can tell, unless you are having a different audio experience than me, he thinks that we're listening to him sing right now, which makes me feel extra bad that I'm just talking over him. But I presume maybe he'll look up in a minute and recognize that that we can't see him. So at any rate, good morning. Good morning and welcome. Let's join together in a breath. We breathe together to gather ourselves in. We breathe together to gather ourselves in from all of those things that have already happened that we're kind of obsessing about, and those things that could happen that we might be obsessing about. Mark has looked up. We gather ourselves in from internet shenanigans. Internet shenanigans like the music not working all of a sudden, and things that work all the time. And how do we carry on? How do we carry on? Our breath gathers us in that way. Our breath gathers us in so that we can get about the work of building church together, however that's taking shape in the world, however it's taking shape in the world. This morning, one of the ways that we as a church are taking shape in the world differently as a church is that this is the day that we would typically go visit the sisters in Oldenburg. So if you've not been here for that before, what typically happens is about 30 of us caravan together down to southern Indiana to the town of Oldenburg, where is located the Sisters of St. Francis Mother House, as well as the retirement home. And so a lot of church friendships have been founded on the way to and from that event, and a lot of amazing times have been had with the retired nuns. And so we didn't want that. Obviously, we're not going this year, obviously. And we didn't want it just to pass without noting it, and without sending some energy and some attention down to the nuns, the ones who we've met before and the ones we haven't met. And so we did a couple of things. One is a number of you sent emails, and Francis Ziegler has forwarded those down, and a sister has printed those out, and those will be up on the bulletin board today. And then the other thing is, Francis told me to tell them it was from the church, but he wouldn't let us pay for the cake. So Francis, on behalf of the church, has donated a cake. Actually, I think it'll be multiple cakes because there's a lot of sisters, but he sent me a picture of Sister Ruth that you're about to see. So that's one of the cakes that they will have this evening. And of course, every pastor, retired and current of the church within, who sees a Franciscan sister wearing a church within t-shirt in the kitchen at the Mother House probably just has a little extra a thump in their heartbeat. It's really wonderful to see, for me especially, that relationship that we have built over the years. And so while we can't be there to offer the sweetness of the spa treatments today, we are offering a bit of sweetness at dessert. And so they will have access to that. And the other thing that I did was I told Francis in advance that we would be praying for them this morning here, and that I hoped that they would know that and that he would share the words of the prayer. And I sent this to him to share with them. And so one of you who is a past Catholic, had a Catholic upbringing said to me, you don't pray for nuns, nuns pray for you, but we're flipping the script. And so I hope you will join me this morning in a breath as we pray together for these amazing women who have given their lives to service. Beloved and loving Creator, great mystery in whose presence we walk together, hear our words of prayer for the Sisters of St. Francis at Oldenburg. We as a people raise them up in prayer for health and wholeness, peace and ease. May they be blessed in these difficult times as they have been a blessing to others in difficult times. May they know how deeply they have impacted the world, and may that knowing allow them to relax into your comforting presence, even in the midst of it all. Bless them all for living their lives as servants, the life of those who give. For all they are and all they invite us to be, we say thank you, and so it is. Amen. For me, that image of Sister Ruth in our t-shirt, our well over a decade, I think, of traveling down to do spa service for retired nuns, which I think we might be the only people in the world who do that. Every time I mention it, I get amazing faces. And so that to me is an intentional reaching out in kinship and in community and in a place in a way that is unique, or maybe at least nearly unique. And another way that is not unique that we're reaching out in kinship to folks right now is through the wonderful world of Zoom chat. And so I hope you'll take a look around the room today, the Zoom room, and see who's watching with you today, who's joining in, who's participating, who is building church with you. I hope you will check in there and say hello. And maybe there are folks you don't know that you'll say hello to, those you haven't seen for a while, especially in person, because very few of us have seen each other for a while. But take a moment to reach out in kinship. So as you continue to look around the room and to say hello and to, I hope, make plans with at least one person in this room to maybe have a Zoom chat or a phone call, or remind them of Tuesday night touch point, which happens every Tuesday from 7 to 8. As you continue to do that, there are a couple things I want to share with you. One, I want to remind you that on February 7th, the annual meeting is taking place, and it's happening right after this service. And so it'll be right here in the same Zoom. That seemed the easiest way. We won't have breakouts that morning. Instead, we'll just stay here and slide right into the annual meeting. It looks like there are some things that will be voted for as far as bylaw changes, a couple of just little tweaks about length of board service and that kind of thing, and how that happens. There will be the voting on of the new slate of board members. And then the other thing that I realized this week I have not remembered to say on Sunday morning is, if you're interested in board service, Normally what you would do is reach out to the board president, Sean Wolbert. I am not putting that on Sean right now, because you may not know that for her professional life, Sean is the CEO of a credit union, which means multiple credit union locations around the city, and it's a busy time always for her, especially in a pandemic. She also, through the work of the credit union, does free tax prep. They're a site where that can happen. And so like thousands of people are coming through the credit union in the middle of a pandemic to do taxes. And so I'm not asking you to email Sean about anything at all right now. Instead, you can email me, contact me on Facebook. My information's all over the place, but my email is just my first and last name with a dot in the middle. So darren.chittick@yahoo.com, easy peasy. And if you're interested, I'll just tell you the gist of what board service means and the expectation. You have to be a member already to join the board, but if you're interested, we can talk about if this is a good time to do that, or something to think about for the future. The other thing I want to tell you about is something new that's happening, which is a new way to give to the No Questions Asked food pantry that, in case you just happen to be here for the first time, is living inside the church within right now. So it's not we don't run it. It's not ours. We're just the place where they're staying, and where they're operating out of. And they have filled the entire building. So every part of the building has some aspect of the pantry operation, and it's been amazing. And so something that had been happening for months and months is that on Thursday mornings, I would get up early, walk the dog in the wee hours, and then leave to be down on the south side to pick up a truckload of food, a pickup truckload from a semi truck. So it was over 1,500 pounds of boxes of food that would have fresh fruit and veg, some kind of dairy, usually 2 or 3 kinds, and some kind of protein that was already cooked and just had to be heated up. And so I would take those, there were 48 boxes, they were about 33 pounds a piece most weeks, and I would take those then to the church and drop them off, and then they would be distributed that day to families coming for food. So that's a lot of food that was coming through. It was through a program called Farms to Families that was enacted early in 2020, so that, you know, with this increase in need, there would be both a way for folks to access food, but also something for farmers to do with their food. Right, so you can see in that how it was helping both folks, because otherwise this food likely wouldn't have been purchased. There's all the food system is a mess at the best of times, and in the midst of a pandemic, it was even less stable. And so that ended at the end of the year, and it's been really weighing on me, and it was weighing also on Angela Leddy. And so at the last board meeting, she wondered aloud, is there something we can do? Is there something we can do? So another weird one-off thing that happened was I recently filled out a survey for the Inglewood Community Development Corporation. I don't know what that is. I probably should. It's very close to my house, and maybe covers some portion of the church catchment area. But they had me fill out a survey. I don't know how they got my email, and they gave me a $100 gift card for filling out a survey. Friends, I will fill out a survey for $100, so please send those as many times as you want. And I knew from the get that I wasn't going to fill out a survey about community services and then just go buy myself something nice. I knew I was going to give it to the pantry, and the e-card itself was one that could only be spent online. And so I know I can send stuff to the pantry through Amazon, but I'm just really not on good terms with Jeff Bezos right now. His net worth has grown so much in the midst of the pandemic because we were all stuck at home and we were all ordering on Amazon, and I'm just kind of not interested, Jeff. I don't feel like our relationship is as strong as it should be for the amount of money you've made off my friends. So I didn't want to buy from there, but I do periodically order from Indy's Food Co-op. And Indy's Food Co-op is not a CSA, they are a co-op, and it's just something that's been put together by a woman named Odessa Wallace, and you can order fruit and veg and all kinds of local products. So she uses local farmers, but also folks like beekeepers who are doing honey and honey products, fermented foods, like all the things. So it's kind of like a little farmer's market to your door with the added access to fruits and veg that we can't get here right now other than going to the grocery. So I was ordering once in a while, and you can deliver, or you can pick it up in your neighborhood. There are all these kind of sites around the city. And I knew there was a place that I could donate there. So I was like, you know what, I'm just going to go give my $100 donation through there. And I put a little note that said, please, you know, I think you donate to No Questions Asked. If not, that's where I would like this to go, if I'm allowed to choose that. And so Odessa said, great, I can do that, no problem. And that got me thinking. That got me thinking, because Odessa also employs people locally. Small local business, supporting local farmers as much as she can, you know, like the farmers don't have as much right now. So if they have stuff, she's buying it. And so what we have done is built a collaboration between the Church Within, No Questions Asked Food Pantry, and Indy's Community Food Co-op. She has just added a button where you can donate. So you donate money, she will deliver produce to the pantry. Easy peasy. It is so wonderful if you're getting food from a pantry to get fresh produce. It's so wonderful to get something that isn't packaged or shelf stable or any of the things. And those things make great sense, but also there's plenty of turnover with the pantry of donations coming in and what goes out, that the produce will go to good use. So if you're interested in helping out the pantry and local business and local farmers and helping mitigate the loss of the Farms to Family program, easy peasy. I've put a link in the chat. It is on Facebook. It'll be in the email on Friday. If you're not on our email list, you can sign up at thechurchwithin.org. Scroll down, you'll see the place. It's just a way that we can support the work of this pantry that is feeding over 1,600 people, no, over 1,800 people a week. So they're seeing above 600 people on average each of their 3 days of service. Can you imagine? Out of our church that otherwise would have been sitting empty. And so I hope that you will consider that. And if giving isn't an option for you right now, share it with other people. I think this could be a really incredible impact for our community on all sides of that makes it not a haver giving to someone who doesn't have right now, but instead is mutual aid, a way that we're supporting a larger circle. So please do share it. Please give when you can. If you're someone who's giving regularly, then put this on your regular giving, because the need is consistent and constant. So I know that's probably the world's longest announcement, but there was a story and a narrative, and I just want you to know how you are building church in the midst of it all through these kinds of collaborations. Let's take a breath together, and as we do, we'll do a quick sound check to see if I can hear Mark Proctor. Oh, Mark Proctor still can't hear me. See, friends, this is why we take all the breaths.
I just sent him a message. He knows it's time.
Okay, we'll see if it happens. No. All right, let's take a breath then together and allow ourselves just to rest as we move into a time of meditation and prayer with Mary Ann King.
At the Church Within, on Sunday morning, on any morning you wish, we have a way of going within through meditation. So as we breathe in with me and breathe out slowly, I ask you, if it is comfortable for you, to just close your eyes or divert your attention away from whatever your surroundings are and go within alone. This is your personal time, meant only for me in my inner space. Breathe with me. Get comfortable. Relax your shoulders and soften your face. Allow the tip of your tongue to rest just on the roof of your mouth and back of your teeth, and breathe. prayer or meditation allows me time to go within to reflect, to collect my thoughts and bring forth the very best of me from the inner to the outer. In this time of reflection, I am free to ask for guidance, review circumstances in my life, look ahead, give thanks, forgive transgressions, ask forgiveness for transgressions, affirm health, affirm wholeness, and gain insight. My time spent in the silence is mine alone to connect with spirit. So turn within. There is no better time than now to exercise faith. No better time than now for forgiveness. And no better time than now to let go. I believe all things are possible. I forgive as many times as it takes to understand forgiveness is cleansing. I let go of holding on to outcomes I can only see with my physical eyes. And in this quiet moment, I review what I feel may have been some egregious offense against me. I review something I may have been holding on to for a long time or a short time. I reflect now. And for this I believe, I forgive, I let go. And in this now moment, I review any circumstance for which I may have offended another. I pause now and review. I believe, I forgive, I let go. In this now moment, I review any desire for physical or mental healing of any kind in my life, a loved one or a friend. And I affirm wholeness and health. I pause now. I review. I believe, I forgive, I let go. In this now moment, I ask Spirit for guidance to see and treat others as I wish to be treated. I pause now. I review. I believe, I forgive, I let go. For in meditation or prayer, I reflect, collect my thoughts, and bring forth the very best of me. As in the words of another, and I quote, "I yield to my spiritual source. I trust my highest and best outcomes are unfolding for me. Calling upon my faith, I trust in the perfection, intelligence, and love of the divine." End of quote. For I believe, I forgive, I let go. And I return now to the outer, knowing at any time I wish, I can access my pathway to the inner. For there I believe, I forgive, I let go. Amen. The foundation of the church within is prayer. So should you ever need someone to pray with you, please look at the church's website and you may make a request there at thechurchwithin.org. Blessings.
There is a quote that I read for the first time a lot of years ago, and it was attributed to the Buddha. I don't think the Buddha likely ever said it. That happens a lot, as I'm sure you know. The thing is, the wisdom persists whether or not the Buddha said it. And so I've clung to this line for quite a while, 2 lines, I suppose. And it is this: it doesn't matter how long you have forgotten, it only matters how soon you remember. I have found in this quote a self-forgiveness practice that allows my mind to move from what I consider wasteful wondering. It's that wasteful wondering about how could I have not known something for so long? How did I believe what I believed? And how did I believe that for so long? How did I not see the writing on the wall? There are a lot of ways that we wonder wastefully, and I imagine that you've been there too. And this self-forgiveness practice has moved me countless times to something more useful. It moves me to feeling grateful for what I know now. It moves me to that question I employ so often: knowing what I now know, how then shall I live? How then shall I live? That question can become even more empowering when we recognize that we can no longer live as if we are still ignorant, still forgetting. Some shifts in thinking, some new awarenesses change everything. They bring about what seems like a new world, for better or for worse, and we have the opportunity to live into what we might recognize as a new paradigm. We could also waste our time spinning our wheels, obsessing about the way things used to be and how it is that we weren't doing better or weren't recognizing what we could do, obsessing about the old paradigm. I've lately been thinking about all of this as emerging from a fiction, And I'm going to tell you in a moment where that language came from for me, like what was happening. And before I get there, I want to offer up something in between to kind of set some context before us. And that includes telling you that we are coming up upon a holiday this week for our Jewish siblings. I've talked about it in past years. It's been a focus of Children's Church. And this year it has added meaning for me because I've learned something about trees. Tu B'Shavat will begin at sundown on Wednesday and continue through sundown on Thursday. In researching it, I have found some information I just want to share in case if you're not already familiar. And I found the first of this from the machar.org website, which is the website for the synagogue of our friend Jeremy Kreidel, Rabbi Jeremy Kreidel. And on this website, we read, this is a late winter holiday occurring on the 15th of Shevat. It's a full moon holiday. Its origin lies in stories of Asherah, sometimes called Astarte, the wife of God Elohim. She rules over the sea and is also a goddess of fertility. Her symbol is the tree, so this is often called New Year for the trees. It comes at the time of year when the sap begins to rise in the fruit trees to make them fertile. We typically celebrate in the community, the Sunday closest to that holiday. That's very specific to their congregation. I want you to hear that one of those lines again. It comes at the time of year when the sap begins to rise in the fruit trees to make them fertile. So that's a literal thing that's happening. Obviously, it's also something that, for me personally, at least, happens metaphorically, I suppose, at this time of year within myself. I can feel new ideas emerging after a winter of not really having much feel exciting or new or fresh. It's just part of the cycle of the year. I read elsewhere that it's also important to note that the region of the world where this holiday originated is not, in fact, in the midst of winter weather. It's different weather than what we're experiencing here. And I first learned of this holiday and that tidbit from the rabbi at the Indianapolis Hebrew congregation when I was there for Friday night Shabbat that happened to be Tu B'Shavat. Rabbi Brett pointed out this kind of weather-related fact so that we could live into two parts of this holiday. One, knowing that somewhere warm weather was returning. It had not gotten as cold as we've experienced, but somewhere it was time for the trees to blossom. It was New Year's for the trees. And we can rest in the knowing that that will happen here as well. We can rest in anticipation of the return of that time of year here as well. As it happens, the almond trees are blooming right now, evidently, around the part of the Mediterranean where this tradition arises from. And so I've had this aspect of the holiday around trees and blooming on my mind since early December, because I noticed while walking the dog that all of the trees in my neighborhood already had buds on them, and I thought this was very weird. And I mentioned it to a friend who happens to be a botanist and an arborist, and he said, well, Darren, it's not weird at all. This is usual. The buds for this spring formed on the trees at the end of last summer. I don't know how I've never noticed, right? I don't know how I have not known this or noticed this for so long. I do know why I notice now. It's because I walk the dog every day. The buds on the trees that will open, unfurl, burst forth this spring have been there since the end of last summer. This is not important information in and of itself for me. I'm not a botanist or an arborist. This isn't important. It did, though, change how I understand what we are focusing on during Tu B'Shavat. I found a lovely metaphor in Rabbi Brett Kirchhofer's pointing us toward anticipation for what's still to come as a way to enrich this holiday. I find even deeper meaning in the fact that all winter, that which will unfurl at the start of spring, was there waiting all along. That isn't just true of those roots beneath the earth, the bulbs and seeds and dormant parts of plants that we can't see, those that wait in darkness through the winter. It's true of the tips of branches on the trees soaking in the sun all winter long, every day. That which will open when winter ends is waiting right now for its time. There are aspects of our lives that we are living right now that are fiction. Eventually, we will come to recognize this bit by bit, or maybe all at once. And as we do, we open ourselves to a more fuller expression of life, as we recognize those fictions and let them fall away. Some of the fictions are seemingly inconsequential, like the fact that I had no idea that spring buds formed the summer before. Some fictions end with a fury. They end with a fury as we awaken to what truly is Some call that enlightenment. Some state simply that it is the process of awakening. I say that it's the inevitable path of practicing practical spirituality. Today we will call it remembering. Remembering. It doesn't matter how long you have forgotten, only how soon you remember. And I'm going to tell you about this remembering that I experienced that brought to me this language about living a fiction. And I want to be sure, though, before I do, that you are feeling within you the promise of what this holiday and what this practice offer. In hopes of sparking in you that same fire, I'll share a line from Albert Camus that I've shared before. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. That's the part we hear most often. He went on. And that makes me happy. In the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer, and that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, within me there's something stronger, something better pushing back. The remembering, the end of the fiction, has been there in the midst of the forgetting all along. Whatever it is you are forgetting right now, the truth is already within you, waiting. Just as this spring's buds have been on branches all through the fall and winter, whatever fiction you are soon to walk out of, the truth is waiting, an invincible summer within you. This year, I quit some things, this year being 2020. I quit some things, and amongst the things I quit, one was tied up in a story I tell myself often. The story is a short one. I'll get back to that. I'm not putting it off. That's the story. That's the whole story, at least in words. I'll get back to that. So few words. I'll get back to that. So many lies. So much fiction. One of the first things I quit this year came after I had jokingly said to someone that I expect my gravestone will read, he said he would, and so he did, and it killed him. I've had a deep aversion to quitting, to not doing what I've said I will do. That does not equate to me always doing what I've said I will do. It just means that I don't really quit. When I'd come to be convinced it was okay to quit a situation last year, I literally had to ask for help on how to do it, because I don't quit things. I don't quit things. And so I had penned an email draft that was the quitting, and I needed to be in text, lest you think I was just being cowardly. I needed there to be text of this conversation. And I sent it to Christopher Nunn, and he said, Darren, this is very nice. You've not quit anything. And I said, oh, let me try again. Let me try again. Instead of actually quitting, what I have done historically is ghosting. Do you know that word? Do you use it? It's when you just suddenly disappear. People use it often in regards to dating. So like you'll go out on a date or two with someone new, and then maybe you'll exchange a bunch of really wonderful texts that make you certain they're the one, and then suddenly they just disappear as if they were a ghost, or as if they had never been there all along. That's ghosting, and that's how I generally, historically, have let things end. And I have been able to do that because I've relied on that fiction that I will get back to it. I will get back to it. It was a nice lie to believe. It was a nice lie because it kept me from having to quit. Quitting, I have learned for myself, is a special kind of confrontation that I have avoided for a very long time, even when it won't involve an actual confrontation. On a kind of metaphorical or metaphysical level, I'd come to realize that all the places I'd been believing I'd get back to were like running toilets. I don't know if you've had this experience, but if your toilet is running, you know, and you have to jiggle the handle, but then even that doesn't work. If you let it run for a very long time, it seems insignificant until you get your water bill. And then you realize how significant that constant flow of water was, and you should have in fact fixed it immediately. Those stories living within the I'll get back, those commitments that I wasn't quitting were idling. That was it. But they were wasting resources, a lot of resources. It's exhausting, at least for me. And I'll own that story. It's exhausting to have a long list of people who I perceive I'm letting down. Then instead of quitting the thing, fixing the leak, I just tell myself, you know what, you're right, this is uncomfortable, and I'm going to get back to it. And I mean it. I mean it every time I think it. I'm going to figure out a way to get back to that thing. And no matter how much I meant it, it was still a fiction. So I quit a committee and a board of directors. I quit a committee and a board of directors that meant a great deal to me. They continue to mean a great deal to me, serving the Abby Hunt Bryce Home, which, if you're not familiar, is a hospice residence for folks who are experiencing homelessness or who lack means at the end of life that would allow them to receive hospice care at home. And I'm quite passionate about the work that's being done there, and I loved serving that work in those two groups. And I also had just run out of bandwidth. I'd run out of bandwidth, so I'd not been attending meetings. It became clear that I was not, in fact, ever going to get back to it, even though I desperately wanted to. And I wanted also to stop beating myself up for the failure. Sometimes I pretend that one of you are telling me a situation that I'm in, like you've come to me to bounce ideas off of, or maybe I'll have some wisdom to offer. And so I imagine you're telling me, and what would I say to you? And it was very simple, right? Anyone else, I would say, you know what? Sometimes things end. They don't have to end badly to end. And I would remind you that no yes is forever. I'd ask if you believe you really will get back to it, a pithy question in the moment, or if you just want to get back to it. But know that you don't have it in you to get back to it right now. Maybe you can get back to it later. I'd invite you to consider why you're living in the fiction that you're going to get back. I was living that because I was taught from early on not to be a quitter. Even if the thing you are not quitting is actively harming you, I was taught, don't quit. I don't believe that anymore, and yet. And so I tell you that story because it may be your story as well, or maybe you have one that's parallel to it. Maybe there's some fiction that you can sense in the back of your mind right now you're ready to let go of. Maybe it's an old fiction that you are pretty sure was not true, but maybe it might have been, and you're let it go. Because we have to live our way out of these fictions if we're going to live our way into life together. And I love pretend. You know I love pretend. I love fiction. I love science fiction, and I love fantasy. I love what we can learn from stories when we know they're stories that are detached from reality. Because when they're detached from reality, those fictions allow us to imagine something we otherwise might not be able to imagine. Right? When they're detached from reality, there is power in that. There's power in that sort of pretending. It is the root of prophetic visioning. I believe wholeheartedly that living in fiction instead of simply using it as a tool is tantamount to not living at all. It weighs on us. It tears at our very soul. It prevents us from seeing each other because we're too busy trying to make the story we've made up real, regardless what life is offering us. My little fiction, the story that I will get back to something that keeps me from facing the dreaded quitting, is a microcosmic example of what also happens at a much larger scale. 2020 saw a lot of fiction collapsing before our eyes. I want to say that there are a lot of fictions about the world that we can no longer believe, except that I see people digging in their heels, even in the midst of the most obvious of these. Faced with the reality and the potential loss of a fiction that serves them, they will wrap more and more. We will wrap more and more fiction around that first story so that we can stay there. I see adults playing dress up who wanted to be some sort of warrior they never were, and so they pretend they are. and they live into an entire imagined reality that is quite literally putting the lives of others in danger. The more obvious it becomes that they've been tricked, it seems, the more adamant they are that they have not been tricked. I say they because it's much easier to recognize it out there. It's true for us as well. For many, there are system level problems that have persisted in our nation for hundreds of years that are finally being recognized. People who were happy to stay blissfully and willfully ignorant are suddenly holding witness in the most sacred of ways. And that witness can lead to not only justice, but healing justice that brings us all to the table, a table where we've never been seated together before. Right? We talk about that table where we will all sit down together as if we're coming back to it, but there are people who've never been allowed at that table. So maybe we build a new one, maybe we do some renovation, I don't know. The table we sit at now is for everyone. It is for everyone. It is true that some folks will not want to sit at that table and they'll stay at the kids' table in the other room, and it's not our job to fix that, I promise. Our job is the healing justice of being gathered around the table together and looking around and saying, you're welcome here. You're welcome here. It is tempting as these stories fail, as we find ourselves no longer protected from the reality of the world, to dive into the woe is me wastefulness of feelings. The woe is me wastefulness of feelings. We spend our energy wondering how it is we've only now learned what we've learned. And we fail to act on our new understanding because of that. That's what I mean by the wastefulness of feelings. Feelings won't heal the world. We can't feel badly enough about something that has happened to stop that thing from happening. Feeling bad doesn't change what is happening. We only have to make different choices. We have to make different choices. Those feelings can push us into that change, and sometimes they can prevent us from finding it. We can sort through those feelings in our own ways and in our own time. We must not sacrifice the real work of healing justice, the real work of life, to that process, to those feelings. Those feelings are so persistent, though. Those feelings are so persistent because trauma stays in the body, and trauma that we come to recognize we've been inflicting suddenly bursts into our being in ways we've never experienced, and those feelings are so persistent. So I remind you of that simple self-forgiveness practice hidden in that quote that is really an anonymous quote. It doesn't matter how long you have forgotten, it only matters how soon you remember. It doesn't matter how long you have forgotten, it only matters how soon you remember. And Albert Camus, in the midst of winter, I found there was within me an invincible summer. And that makes me happy. For it says that no matter how hard the world pushes against me, against us, within me, within us, there's something stronger, something better, pushing right back. I'll remind you of the new year for the trees, that the buds persisted all winter. Those buds have persisted all winter since last summer, as if they are tight little balls of an invincible summer all their own, just waiting for their time to open. And I'll close with these opening lines from Amanda Gorman's Inauguration Day poem that echo all of this in the specific context of our time. When day comes, we ask ourselves, where can we find light in this never-ending shade? The loss we carry, a sea we must wade. We've braved the belly of the beast. We've learned that quiet isn't always peace. In the norms and notions of what just is, isn't always justice. And yet the dawn is ours before we knew it. To that I add, in fact, the sun that rises at dawn also shines all through the night. It doesn't matter how long you've forgotten, it only matters how soon you remember.
I believe in the sun, even when it isn't shining. I believe in love, even when there's no one there. I believe in God, 'cause I believe in God, even when she is silent. I believe in miracles, I believe in life, I believe there can always be a way. I believe that nothing is impossible. I believe that nothing is impossible. All things are possible with God. I believe in the sun, even when it isn't shining. I believe in love, even when there's no one there. I believe in God, I believe in God, even when she is silent.
Amen to the return of functioning Zoom sound. Thank you, Mark. That was perfect. Let us take another breath. Our breath is incidentally one of those tools to remembering that we have at our disposal all the time, not our disposable. We can breathe our way back in. Let us breathe our way into the offering prayer this morning. Creator God, all that I am and all that I have comes from your limitless supply. I am an open and willing conduit through which your good flows. I share all that I have as you direct. Love, friendship, prosperity, peace, abundance, and joy are gifts that I share and receive. Thank you, Spirit. Thank you, God. Amen. In a moment, we will join together, I hope. I can't hear you, and I'm usually looking at Mark because what I see is what feeds Facebook. So I'm not checking in on you, but I hope you will sing right out loud the song and that you will say right out loud the words of the closing prayer. And then I hope you will stay for breakout sessions, which I try to kind of sell to you in a different way every week. But I'll tell you that I feel like connection in this time, even in awkward situations like what we imagine a breakout room is, that connection and having to sell that to you feels pretty much like having to sell you air. And so I hope you will stay for a breath of that today, because I don't know how better to convince you. I don't know how better to convince you that it is a good way to walk into community together. So if you have time, and I understand some of us have things to do immediately, if you have time, I hope you'll stay for the breakout. For now, let us sing along with Mark, all people, all bodies are holy.
All people are holy, many past, one done. All people are holy, only love is real. No matter who you are, Let's gather together and let the Spirit in. All people are holy, many past, one God. All bodies are holy, only love is real. Only love is real.
May the peace of God go before us into this glorious week, and may the peace remain wherever we have walked. Peace above us and below us. Peace to the right and to the left. Peace within and without. Peace in the face of everyone we meet. Peace in the words to everyone we greet. Amen.